Hi, everybody. It's Nancy Reyes with For Your Canine.
And Joanne Stoike with For Better, For Worse.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight, it's kind of a little bit of an interesting subject and something that we've been meaning to do for a long time. Since we're both trial hosts for different venues, we thought it would be great to help folks enter trials and how to enter trials, or for those people who are just interested in just getting started entering trials in a different venue, that this would be, hi Donna, hi Deb, that this would be a good topic. So, and for other reasons too. So if you're interested or you have questions or anything, please jump in, because we're going to talk a little bit about the process of trials and things like that. Because I think even those of us that have been doing it a while sometimes can get confused with with so many different venues and so many different different ways to set up or sign up for stuff. So PSD, okay. You know, Tim, we don't have a lot of that in this area at all. But we will see what we can say, because we don't have because are you on the East Coast, Tim? Because I think you might be. So it's a little more prevalent there. Here we haven't had. I think we had one like a long time ago, and we didn't have it. It was somebody else. So anyway. Okay, so we're gonna quickly talk about how to enter shows, what's some of the process before you get to the show, so that we can so to help things go smoother for you and to have a lot less confusion, especially in the beginning when you're first getting started, because that's also your most subsidies. We don't have UKC here. Okay, yeah. So I will look up the PSD. Because I know we had one trial here, but it just never really took off here. I don't know why that is. Anyway, so we're gonna chat about the different venues, how to enter, and some of the rules and stuff. And again, it's basically to just provide you the information to be able to have less drama at a trial. There's nothing worse than doing your entries, sending in, and going to the trial and have it be wrong or confusing or whatever. So this is in the hopes of alleviating that for the competitors and or the trial hosts. So we're first going to start with AKC. AKC is bigger, and it gets to be more confusing, and there's a lot more shows, so it can be a little bit more interesting, right? So one of the things that we're gonna, and I know this sounds basic, but you guys have to read the premiums. People don't read the premiums. They don't know what they're offering, what's entailed, and all those kind of things, and so people get very, very confused. So so a couple of things. I think one of the things I wanted to chat about, I want to make sure we're clear about, was yes, Tim, we do our AKC entries online. We do them both I have them mailed, but we also have an online option for our people for the very same reason. It's very much easier. So
yeah, Tim, if you're interested, there is the software person. His name it's Rycris Software, which is what was built for UKC and then AKC afterwards. It's an extra fee, but as a club, if they choose to pay that, they can offer the online entry option. So if you're with a club, the technology is there. If you're just a competitor, or if you have any clout with a club, you can mention it to them that it's an option, because I think a lot of clubs don't know that that's there.
Right, and I'll show you that link. So AKC has two different ways to enter their trials. One is first received, which is as they get there, you're in, and the other one is random draw. All right, so we'll go over random draw. Basically, everybody sends their stuff in, and there's a lottery basically to get into the trial. And there's a lot of rules around that. So, and the other thing that some clubs can do for AKC is they can reserve a certain amount of entries for their volunteers, right? So sometimes if you would like to volunteer, you have a better chance of getting in, mostly, depending on the club and depending on their situation. And now that we're doing online, we are doing it first received because it's hard to do random draw. Not that you couldn't, but it's hard to do random draw when you're taking online entries. So we usually do first received. Random draw gets really confusing. So, okay. So couple things. And with AKC has a draw period. The trial opens on a certain date and then closes on another date. That's really important to remember. So those of you, what most people do that enter these trials is they put those opening dates on their calendar so that they make sure they get into it, or they have the entries ready, right? So that's one thing. That's one way to help yourself. And I think just looking here, the entries for volunteers can't be more than 15% of the entries. So for the workers. So okay, and accepting after the draw periods. So sometimes the clubs may accept entries after the trial period if it hasn't filled. Right? If it's not full, we can still take entries, but if it's full, we can't. Okay. Anything else you want to add to that, Joanne?
Nope. I think that's good. You're the I don't host AKC yet, so you're more the guru on this one.
Mm-hmm. And Christy, that is exactly why we started doing it online, because the mail has been weird. Last week, for my business, we didn't get mail for 3 days. It was awful. We didn't get mail. So yeah, it's a little bit more challenging too. And you can also do, Carolyn said you can do day of show, but these days the trials fill up so fast that we don't offer day of show for most of the time. It's full, and because of COVID, we haven't really taken day of show because we can't have, and we really can't anyway. We usually fill anyway, so it's been a little more challenging that way. Okay.
So I will add one thing. If you are a day of show person, right? Let's say a club does offer day of show, you have to be there before the briefing. Usually it's by 8:30 a.m. And you have to have your entries in, even if they're running from, say, novice to masters, and you're a masters person. You have to be there in the morning to get those entries in. Okay, and the reason for that is usually secretaries will print out all the score sheets and all the running orders to keep the trial flow moving. Okay, so if those aren't in there and they've printed something, it's that much harder if you had 5 people come in and say, oh, I want this class and I want this and I want to move here. So that's why they do it that way, to help the secretaries out.
Right. And hold on one second. Let me turn off my Wi-Fi. So all right. Hold on one second.
Are you pulling up the premium?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I am pulling up the premium. Can you see it?
You have the our names and the boxes are covering.
Alrighty then. Hold the bus for a second.
A little hard to read.
Yes, it is. Hold on. I have to take that off. Okay.
So Tony, that's a really good question. And AKC's premiums, which you'll see in the premium, is pretty strict about that. They will not take it. They will mail it back to you, or they will shred it. And her question is if it gets there a couple days before it opens, because if they took it, they'd take anybody's, right? You'd have to apply it, and then nobody would follow the opening. So anyone who mailed it early would get in prior to those who didn't.
Right. So you see it, right, Joanne? Because I can't go back.
I do, yes. Yep, okay. I see it.
So you can, so you see right at the beginning is how we're going to do what the entry method is, when it opens and when it closes, right? And we specify in this one how we want it delivered, right? So that's number one. Also the dates, make sure you check the dates are right. Those are, and also what's being offered. Because I'm going to be honest with you. We have had some people that they're asking for something we're not offering. They sign up for it and we're not offering it. And this is who the trial secretary is, the chairperson, all that stuff, the judges, and what they are judging. Very important. For most people, it doesn't matter, but some people can be, and this is the other important thing. If move-ups will be offered and how they're going to be offered. Is it day-to-day? Since we're only doing one trial, we're only doing it from one day to the other, not day of, right? And you should already know who's eligible to enter and all that stuff. And the price, go ahead.
I was going to say, going back to the move-ups, right? You definitely want to read your premium, because let's say it's summertime, right? And we're offering, an interior container and 2 exterior trials, right? Make sure if you only need 1 leg to complete your exteriors and there's 2 being offered, usually when you make your entry, you're going to enter, say, both novices, right? And if there is not same-day move-ups, you can't do anything about that. So you'll have to run novice again. Okay. Right. And if, let's just say you're hopeful and you entered novice for trial 1 and advanced for trial 2, if you don't pass your novice, you can't run advanced.
Right. Because there's people who try to do that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And wait list. So you place on the wait list, and what our procedure is for the wait list, right? And when after closing, and how the refund policy works, really important. So you want to know that, right? You're going to check your premium. That's why it's really important to check the premium. I know it's a little labor intensive, but it's totally worth it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead.
The good part about the premium, guys, is that AKC has a template for their premiums, right? So when you start reading them, you'll know which sections are important to you, right? You don't care who the judges are. You're just going to want to look at the dates, where it's at, refund policies, move ups. So you'll know kind of the sections of what you want to cover.
Right. So here's where it's important, especially those starting out. Novice A and Novice B. And so, Joanne, could you go over what constitutes a novice A?
Sure. So, and I'm gonna specify this because those of you who do other AKC sports, ScentWork is different. Okay. So, say you do obedience, you have to enter B. If you've ever titled a dog, any dog in you would have to enter B in other venues. So, in other sports. So, in nose work, you may enter novice A if your dog has never earned a title for that element, right? So you could have, another AKC dog that's in detective already, but now you got a new puppy and you're going to enter your first trial. You can enter that dog as an A dog. So once you have received that element's title, right, you can continue to compete in that element because AKC offers the elite program, which is 10 Qs on top of the 3, right? Well, you get to 10. And so if you want to take that elite path, as soon as you get your 3 and you get your, say novice container title, you have to enter B for the rest of those legs. For even if you're, ever want to enter novice again for that element, you must enter B. Okay. But otherwise you can enter A. Unless you're a judge. or a family of a judge, right, then you do have to enter B, or a professional detection handler. Those types of people, you should enter B. And on a personal note, this is not the rules, but this is just sort of, I think the commonality is, if you're a really experienced handler, most people will enter B, right? You don't have to, but most people do, and you kind of leave the A class for the true new people, to be able to have, placement opportunities.
Right. And then the rest are, and then so make sure you mark the right one, make it legible. Don't put a huge X and they can't tell which one you entered. Make it, take and some of these forms can be done with the PDF filler as well. So the big important thing is what you're going to enter, right? What you're going to do. And the other one is your registration, AKC registered number. That has to be correct. That must be correct, because when it's wrong, it's difficult. And then the dog's AKC registered name, their call name, their date of birth, and their breed. And then your information. The breeder, sire, and dam is really, really more important if you're doing confirmation. But AKC puts them on all their entries, right? Yep. So if you don't have that, you don't have to put that. But the important things is their AKC registered name, their registration number, their name, date of birth, their sex, and their breed, and then your information. The big thing is make it really legible. Like, be very clear what you're entering. The other thing I wanted, if you don't know what level you are, right? If you don't know what level you are, you can AKC. You can go in and look and see where you are in your journey, right, for your dogs, and what titles you have and all that kind of stuff. It really make it pretty easy for you to be able to find out that information, right?
They do. If you go to akc.org, in the upper right-hand corner, you will see My AKC, and that also has a drop-down. You'll go to Manage Dogs, okay? And then that will take you to your list of your dogs, and you can click on it, and there's a little tab on the bottom that says Titles and something else. If you go there, it will list everything you have, and it lists it all together: confirmation, rally, obedience, Bass Cat, nose work. So, right. Excuse me, all those are there. Go ahead.
And Karen mentioned about the age to enter. You should also be very aware of how old your dog should be to enter a trial, because some of us that are on their second or third dog really are very eager to enter our dogs and maybe are a little bit young. And it does matter if they're a day, if they're a day or two shy, it matters. So be very clear about what the age requirements are for that particular sports. Because I think I want to say in nosework it's 6 months, right?
That's correct. Yep.
6 months. Yeah. So make sure he's not 5.5. He might be wonderful, but make sure he's 6 months.
Yes. So Christina, yeah, we'll get to UKC in a minute. They do have premiums. And Judy, yes, AKC is based on what the dog has achieved. And I know that's different for those people who do, say, obedience or, agility, those types of things. As the ScentWork is based on the dog.
Mm-hmm. All right. So for online entry, I will pull that up for what we have. Oh, this one doesn't look as nice as it usually does. Anyway, but I will show it to you. Okay, so this is our online, hold on one second, online entry. Do you see that, Joanne?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is our AKC online entry. It tells us who the judges are, what they're offering, the pricing, and all that stuff. And you can still download the premium and where the location of it is going to be. So if you're going to go in here to enter it, it's very similar to what's on the original one. So this is one way to enter it, and then you just select it, and then you would sign the agreement, and then send it in.
Yep. And so this would be found on a link on the host's webpage, right? There's something that says online entry that will take you to a separate page. Otherwise, it'll take you to the paper entry. But the really cool part about the online entry is in the drop downs, you can only enter what's offered. Right. So they don't have, you can't mess it up on, oh, I entered containers and we weren't offering that.
Right.
Yes, this is AKC, Tim. And
Yeah.
again, it's good for AKC and UKC because the person who designs the software has designed it for both.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, though, you have to have a club that's willing to purchase the extra fee for that piece of software. So if they don't want to, if they have a trial secretary that just loves processing paper entries, they don't want to do it. It's not an option, unfortunately. So
yeah. So I am a big big online girl. So I really like the online. So as soon as I saw that was available, I was all over it.
Yeah,
and a lot of our people like to do it online.
Right. When I went in to look, it doesn't seem like there are very many clubs out there that are offering it because if you sort of back out of Nancy's piece, you can get to the main page and it will show you kind of across the country what shows are being offered in that online system, and there were not many. So hopefully that'll take off.
Yeah. So that's AKC, and so if it's random draw, then they usually put in an entry date and then a draw date, and then when they're going to let you know if you made it in or not. If those clubs that decide to do a random draw, right? So that's kind of how that works. And again, that's why I think a lot of clubs don't do the online is because it's really difficult to do random draw when people are signing up online and you're taking their money, right? It's harder.
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Sandra. I don't know. I have to ask Nancy. I think you have to manually shut off your online entries, don't you?
And we do. Mm-hmm.
I would guess if it's a really heavy entry day, there is a possibility you would enter and it's time stamped. So as your entry came in, it might be full, before somebody monitored that, and they would just let you know, hey, you're on the wait list.
Right. All right. And so that's go ahead.
I was just gonna say the one thing before we move on to another venue, and this is gonna apply to at least AKC and UKC, right? Because you usually will get trial results sent to you. Okay. It is your job to, at the end of that day, review what you passed or what you didn't pass and make sure your results are correct, right? Judges are human beings and people make errors, when they try not to, but 125 entries a day is a lot. And so, people do their best, but it's your job really overall. Once those get sent off, okay, basically once you go home from Sunday's trial, if you have something, once the club sends that paperwork in, you have to contact the club. So you'd have to contact AKC or UKC or fill in the blank to get those resolved, because they have to write then the club, and the club has to get the judge, and they have to review their paperwork. So it becomes a much bigger ordeal, where if you handle it day of, you can just go to the trial secretary and say, hey, I passed this, and they can review all the judges' sheets prior to them going home.
Yeah. Erica, the random draw, the way it works is they get, let's say they're taking entries for 2 weeks, for example, 2 weeks. Then they get all the entries in, they put it in a bag, and they just pull out entries until the trial fills. So that's what it's a luck of the draw. It's a random draw.
Right. Yeah. And Judy, there are rules. It's posted in the premium. If it is random draw, it will tell you where the random draw will take place and what time it will take place.
Correct. So. Correct. Right. So there's a lot of rules around it. We did one trial random draw, and it was a little challenging. So we decided to do first received. So we're going to go over how to enter the trials. Then we're going to talk about what happens after you enter the trials. Okay. So here we have you can, if you can attend the random draw. I think only the club can do that. Let's see. Let's see. Trophy shall be a.
No, I think anyone can actually.
Yeah, I think so too. Yes.
It's open to the public, so you can. I mean, it would be common courtesy if it's at someone's house, right? You're like, hey, I'm coming. But sometimes they hold them at restaurants. Sometimes people, before COVID, right? We're gonna have it at the local Denny's at 6 p.m., right? So you can go and watch.
Mm-hmm. The other thing too, if you're going to enter, especially ScentWork, just know that you cannot enter. Like, say, if you have two novice dogs, you cannot enter both dogs in the same trial. If there's a two trials, you can enter one in one trial and one in the other, but you cannot enter both of them in the same trial, right?
Well, so let me clarify. You can't enter them in the same class.
Class,
right?
that's it. Right.
So you can't have a dog in Novice A and a dog in Novice B because it's the same course. Nothing changes between that. You can have a dog in Trial 1 Novice and a Trial 1 Advanced, or vice versa, right? You just cannot have two dogs in the same class in the same trial.
Right. So be mindful of that. Oh, Deb, I didn't know we shared a birthday. That's interesting. I've never met anybody born on the same day.
No, Tim.
No.
AKC does not have FEO entries.
So, all right. So for AKC, and then we'll talk about confirmations, but make sure the registration is right and it's legible. It is. If it's not legible, then it creates a whole lot of additional stuff for the trial secretary. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is a UKC. This is a UKC entry form. So it's. Hold on one second. How do I get there? Oops. How did I get there?
To the entry form?
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay.
How did you get there? How did they get there?
How do I get there? Okay. So you see the entry form, right? Do you see it?
Yes. Yes. Sorry.
Okay. So same thing. Make sure your numbers right. So the one thing I wanted to mention is that UKC you can apply for a temporary listing number. If you don't have a current UKC number, you can get one very quickly, enter a trial, and then after, I think it gives you a couple of weeks to then make sure that you get that number, you fulfill the requirements to turn that temporary number into a more permanent number.
And you don't have to.
You
never have to, right? You will I'll tell you, if you have a temporary number, you will never get the award certificates, the title certificates mailed to you. You can earn them, and then when you finally get a permanent number, they'll mail everything to you. But just know, you can acquire titles, you'll never get them, and they won't be like really registered with UKC. They don't get to count towards anything until you get that permanent number.
Right. So same thing, a lot of the same information, but here UKC does ask for a final response on their
for masters and elite. Yes.
Correct. Right. And then your address and phone number. So this is where and correct me if I'm so there's only A and B for novice too, right? No, Joanne?
No, there's A and B for everything.
For everything.
For all the levels.
Which is what makes you want to cry. So I get that.
Yes. So again, if you can enter A if they have not earned that title, okay, for that particular element, No, Michelle, they will mail you your titles. They do it like every month, I believe. But you can enter A. Again, it's sort of based on the dogs, not the people, right? I've gotten a lot of my somebody told me this, my instructor told me this. It's based on the dog. Okay. So again, if you are a really skilled handler, I think it's common courtesy that people enter B, but it is not required. The only people who have to enter B, again, are judges, family members of judges. Okay. If you would like to enter a dog that's not your dog, you should enter B, right? The dog should run in B. Okay. So if you're substituting a handler, okay, that's a weird one that not a lot of people know. So if somebody else is filling in for you, you're injured, you sprained your ankle, whatever, your dog should really be running in B, even if you're an A dog. Okay. And so, yep, I think that's it. Basically, judges, family members, and other handlers.
Yeah.
Also, okay. You've got the title, right? UKC is offering the champion and the elite champion, so there's a whole lot of legs you can earn there. Anything after your regular 2-leg first title, you must enter B to earn any of those champion or elite legs.
Tim, that's a good question. No, they do not require proof from the other venue. So no, yes, it could be a liar.
Nobody does.
Fire. but nobody requires it. But yeah.
But and realistically, guys, the difference between A and B is placements. I mean,
right.
It's like, you know, if you're the newbie that just started a Novice class and this is your first trial, and then you have somebody who, you know, is running elite NACSW and they've entered A. I mean, it's not always the case, right? But, you know, usually you're going to leave that lower A level for new people to get, you know, be able to get a placement to go home.
Right. Okay. So here's a premium for UKC. Let's see.
Yes, Tony, a title in that element. So if you got your novice container title, and you were running an A, you can still run an A for, you know, vehicles, exteriors, and interiors. Okay.
All right. So this is a UKC, very similar, right? But you usually, and I do this as well. We run 2 trials of UKC, each day. So you see, it's a lot more to think about and go and work through, right? Is that the only one? Yeah. No.
Yep.
Yeah. And what the limits are, and then usually we attach that other entry form that you saw to the form. So, and here Joanne's doing HD, and then they're doing 2 trials per day. So again, this is where you can enter, one dog in one trial and one dog in another if they happen to be at the same level. So.
Yeah, but please just check what's being offered. It was a brand new person, and they meant no harm, but they had just come from a previous trial that offered all 4 elements twice in one day, and that's the entry form they filled out for me. I'm like, we're not offering interiors, and there's only 1 trial, you know, not 2. And so I had to contact them and say, what do you really want to enter? And, you know, they felt awful, but, you know, it's just one of those, it saves everybody the time, because she had to fill out another entry form and send it back to me, right? Because I can't take that form.
Right. And yeah, that's true, Tony. To go from A to B, you have to complete you have to complete A. Right? If you haven't, right? If you haven't done it yet. If you
No. You can run in B in anything you want to.
Right. But if you can, yes, you can do B anytime you want. But if you don't have a master's container, then you're an A. Yeah, if you haven't done it, but that's up to you. You know.
Right. You can enter B.
Yeah.
If you want to. But what I think the bigger picture is, once you've got that element title, you can never enter A again in that element.
Right.
Okay. B, you can enter it from novice on if you want to.
Right. Because that's why, like for me, I always just do B because.
I have to because I'm a judge.
Yeah, for me, I just do it because I can't remember who's an A and B. I can barely remember what my dogs are doing, so so I just do everybody
So,
does.
yep. And UKC also has a really nice way. If you go to the ukcdogs.com, under, I believe it's events, there is a points check. And you can click on that. You'll have to enter your name, your dog's registered name, their number, and your email address. And then they email you a listing of their titles within, it says 10 minutes. I usually get it in 60 seconds. So that's a really nice way to double check UKC. The other thing about checking those points, you really, really need to go check the standings and results page to see if the last trial you competed in is listed there. Okay. If it is not, you cannot count that those cues that you earned are going to be listed in your points check.
Right.
So UKC, unfortunately, is still based a lot on paper. They do a lot. They don't have a lot of electronic processing. So it takes them usually at least 4 to 6 weeks to process a trial. So I have Excel spreadsheets where I keep track of things just because there's so many trials. So if you are a place where there's frequent venues that have a lot of trials, that might be an option for you, is to keep that in Excel.
Right. Yes. And we have some folks that would be happy to share their spreadsheet with you. Okay. So that's yeah, right. Because that's the thing. It's good to keep track of your own stuff so that in case there is a discrepancy, you have the information, and you can go in there and have them, because anybody can make a mistake along the way. So you just really want to make sure that you you have your information correctly, and then that way, hopefully, they can resolve any problems you may have. All right. So that's UKC and AKC, how to enter those trials. And the confusing thing with the with UKC is the A and B. It gets people wanting to pull their hair out. So I get that. Okay, here we have CWAGs. For those of you who do those trials. This is a little bit easier. Usually we haven't again, Joanne's the same as I am. We're not accepting day of show. We normally do, but we haven't been just because of the COVID. And you can have one trials of these, and these can get pretty confusing too because of all the different names that they have. So Joanne made it nice and easy: level 1, 2, 3, or 4, private eye, detective, and ranger level 1, 2, 3. So this is a little easier to decipher what's happening, and they're having looks like 2 trials of each. So this one's still on paper because and unfortunately, really unfortunate. And here you would circle which one you're in, which I really don't care for this particular type of. I'm an online girl, so I have done where people can sign up online for CWAGs using JotForm. Since CWAGs is very friendly and very easy to work with, and easy to so then I just did an online entry form on JotForm where they can go and pay for CWAGs, because there's no computer system for CWAGs. So JotForm downloads everything to an Excel spreadsheet, which makes it easier for us to score and submit to CWAGs. So that is why we do it that way for CWAGs. All right. CPE. Hold on.
Yeah, thanks for that, Christy. So she's put out that UKC points check. That's where you would go to double check all your qualifying runs.
Right.
Do you have a link for tracking form for UKC? Do you have a link for a tracking form? Oh, do you mean like the Excel spreadsheet, Erica, or are you talking about tracking as a sport? I'm thinking you mean the Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's has a spreadsheet they can share. Let's see. Okay, so CPE. Okay. Hmm. Okay. This is a CPE. It's very similar. If you do CPE agility, it's very similar to that form. Just has all the and they don't call trial, they call them rounds, round one, round two. So if you see the entry form, it's very similar uh, uh, to the agility form. And they've kind of done it very similarly. Like for containers, for level one, you need one container. For level two, you need two, right? Two containers. And for level three, you need three or six.
Four,
They double it.
four,
Four.
6,
Yeah. 4, 6, and
8.
8. 4, 6, 8. So you need a lot more legs for containers than you do for the others, right? Which is why we are offering lots of containers. Several, like we're offering 4 rounds of containers. It's because you need so many container queues. So, which is very similar to same thing. You have to be registered with the CPE, dog's name, and all that information. So the reason we keep reiterating about the importance of the having the right CPE number is because it really is important. It creates so much problems when just you transpose the number or it's wrong. So it's really important that you have the right number for the venue that you're in. Okay. All right. Really quickly, we're going to go over the NACSW one. This is an
Yep.
important one for those that do NACSW. So important, so much so that it is just, I love that it's all online. And one of the important things with the NACSW is where the trial location is, what being offered, what day. In this case, it's 2 NW3s. If you happen to show up on the wrong day, there's nothing that can be done there. You just have to go right back home. So you want to make sure you entered for the right trial. And how many dogs are permitted and how much the cost is and all that stuff. And this is really important. All the NACSW entries are done via online. Period. End of story. Everything is online. You must be registered with them. You have a login account, and everything's done online. So, and those dates to enter, like here, May 26th is the day that it opens, and it's open for 2 days. And on the 28th, it closes. So you have those 2 days to enter online. You don't have to pay. They don't collect any money during that time. A lot of hosts could collect money, but then you'd have to refund a bunch. So most of us just you enter, and NACSW does the random draw. We have nothing to do with it.
And I'm going to back up 1 second because I don't know about you, Nancy, but I get a lot of emails, right? People in NACSW, they have the NACSW membership list, which they send out, hey, there's going to be a trial wherever on this date, okay? That just means that as a host, I have completed my entry requirements, okay? And I still have to work with NACSW. I have to work to get a premium up. I have to work to get an entry date set up. I don't set those entry dates. NACSW has a date that they give you. We can ask for a certain week, but we do not know what that entry date will be, usually until that premium is posted. Okay, right. Because you can see here, we have to put it in the premium. So by the time they give us that date, it's normally, our premium's usually up in 24 hours. So while everyone is very eager, okay, I don't have any information until the premium goes up. So you really should wait until that membership list gives you that second notification that, hey, the premium's up, it can be found at, and it'll give you the email address or the website address, okay? So I say that because, those of us who, we just get really busy, And I have to send the same thing to everybody. I don't know, when the premium goes up, just look. You'll know when I know. So just throwing that out into the world. I promise we're not holding back any information from you guys. It's not a secret. As soon as we know, we post that premium.
Right. So, and then once you, and then and all the dates are hard and fast. That's it, right? These are the dates you have to enter. And sometimes, very rarely, the trials may not fill. So then you might then be able to enter afterwards, but you will be at the bottom of that list, right? Everything is automated, and they send you a list of all the people who got in and who's on the wait list. They send that to us. And then we, in turn that around and send out the confirmations of those people who got in and those people who didn't, who are on the wait list. So here's the things I want you to be really mindful when it comes to NACSW. Please, please, please be aware of the refund policy that because each host may have a slightly different one. It's not the same for everybody. We have options about what we want to do and how the refund process is going to go. So you need to make sure you read it because it's different for every trial host. So be very, very aware. It's really important because it's not the same for all of them. And if somebody did it one way and somebody else does it another way, that's it. The other thing is really important is look at what the trial site is like. What is it like? The location? What is it? What is it? A high school? Is it require a lot of walking? Is it a lot of stairs? Is there's no air conditioning? This is an important one for the school because it's in July. If you have a heat intolerant dog, maybe that's not one you want to enter, right?
Yeah. And the other thing is, sometimes ADA requests, right? If you are a person who, I don't know, let's just say you have a walker or you just had a surgery and you're in a boot and you can't walk long distances, right? I can't help that ADA request. I can give you the closest parking spot I can give you. But when we have search areas, sometimes they have to be where they have to be. And so like, if you've ever been to this school, it is very big. And some of the walks are uphill and it's very hot. So, I try and put all that in there. So again, there's no surprises on trial day, right? We try and give you as much information that will help you determine whether or not this is a trial you want to enter.
Right. But what happens more often than not is that people enter it and they shouldn't. They shouldn't enter it, and then they're complaining about, how long it is, how far it is. Well, it says right there in the premium, it's uneven footing. It's no air conditioning. So if you have a dog that is not going to like being in the heat, you don't enter it. But because there's nothing we can do the day of, right? We can't do anything.
Right. I've seen some. I remember one of the trials I went to really early on. It said in the premium there's no stairs. There's an elevator, or no, it was there's stairs to search areas. The elevator is out of commission, and somebody said I can't do stairs, and they entered that trial and they could not make it up the stairs, and they had to forego 2 elements. So they had no chance of titling that day, all because they missed something in the premium.
Right. So you guys, the premiums, we put a lot of time and effort putting them, trust me on that, putting them together. We really would appreciate if you would read them more because we are on the other side of that. Remember, if you decide not to read it and do your own thing, and 15 or 20 people decide to do the same thing, it just gets really stressful and difficult. But just for those of you who do NACSW, the trial host does absolutely nothing about the random draw. There's nothing we can do about it. It is what it is. I mean, we can enter our own trials, and
we'll get in sometimes.
We won't get in. I have not gotten in a few times, right? Actually, most of the time I don't get in. I think the only times I've gotten in is if I use my priority entry. But so that's really important. It's like there's nothing that we're doing. It's all NACSW does all that. So like they do all that work for us, which is really kind of nice. I personally personally love how NACSW does it. It's very stressful anyway, just running a trial, but us not having to deal with that piece of it is really, really wonderful. So I really like it. At first it was difficult to adjust, but I really like that. I really like it. So that's one of the things you want to really think about, right? Okay.
So Judy, Nancy and I we're longtime hosts, right? I think we've been hosting for what, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
You longer than me, right? 10, you said?
Yeah, I think it's been 10. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm 8. So are all hosts supposed to be so informative on things related to ADA? I think it's just we've been around the block enough and got enough questions that it's more important to us to put them in there so nobody's unhappy, right? So nobody does enter a trial and that they have all the information they need. I would say those premiums come out, like my premium's out now, right? It was out, I think, the beginning of May. So you have a whole month before that trial. So that is the time where you can send that trial host an email and say, hey, I have an ADA concern. Do you think this would be, a problem for me? And they would be happy to answer you a month ahead of time, right?
Yeah, but not after you've already, not like when they're in the throes. Because once those results come in for us, then we have to turn around and put it in a confirmation and make sure the wait lists are updated and all that stuff. So it's really really important. So then this goes to the confirmation letters. So important. We all, for NACSW, they give us the template with the confirmation, and we send that out, right? To all the people who got in the trial and all the people who are on the wait list. Okay. And because it's 2 days of trial, it's labor intensive. So you have to make sure you that you are you just be patient, wait, make sure you check your spam folder before you email the host that you didn't get it. Because that happens often. Same for AKC, UKC, CWAGs. More importantly, for those venues, because we might have people manually putting stuff in, and they're human. They might make a mistake. It is important that you check your confirmation to make sure that your registration numbers properly. What you entered is in that confirmation. If you entered containers novice A and somehow it's advanced A or whatever, you had better contact the trial secretary and fix it. Don't wait till you get to the day of the trial to tell them that it's wrong. You should, as soon as you get it, make sure you check it, read it, make sure you check everything, and make sure you confirm that everything's correct. It's really important. It's a lot of work, but if you don't check your confirmation and you show up for the trial and you're in the wrong thing or your registration number's wrong, it's a big, big deal. It's a lot of work. And if you have several people doing that, then the mornings become very emotional at the trials. So
you get a very crabby trial secretary is what you'll get. Yep.
So
there's one thing about NACSW that I wanted to mention that we didn't, about entries. Okay. If you are somebody, like, let's just say you really want your dog to enter and you just had a back surgery, but it's the perfect trial environment, the perfect season for your dog, and you're going to have your husband run your dog. Okay. If you want your husband to enter, he has to be, or she or whoever, has to be an active member. Okay. So they have to have a membership number of their own, right? And they have to enter the trial. Okay. They have to be the one to pull the drop down menu and put that dog under them. You can't show up to the trial and say, my husband's going to run my dog today. Okay. The score room has to make changes. NACSW has to make changes on their end. So they need that information up front. So if you had any questions about that, again, you can email them, right? trials@nacsw.com. And they can help you, with the rules on that. But just be sure that the actual handler running the dog is the person that you enter.
Okay. Yes. Because you can do that. Like, for example, Joanne can run my dog if, like, say I hurt my foot or whatever. So that can be done, and you can make that change. Same for ORT. But yes, so that's really important. The other thing I wanted to make sure we covered, because there's so much, the confirmation letter, really important. Double check it. Make sure you look and make sure your dogs are entered in the right thing. And it would even, it would even be good to reply to the secretary, hey, everything's correct, because then they know. But you need to make sure you check that, because that's a big deal, right? Because if it's wrong, especially if your registration number is wrong.
Yeah. And then the third part of NACSW is the final, right? So you will get a confirmation letter that will tell you you're in the trial and you need, here's how to pay. And usually a week or two before the trial, you will get your final details letter. That one is the most important one to read. Okay. And it is because there's all the details of arrival times and where to go and what to do. I can't tell you how many times people are coming from far away, and I get that, but you can't show up to the trial at 7:30, right? If it says we can't come until 8:15, you can't come until 8:15. Some big venues can accommodate that, but like I have a trial in March, it's a teeny tiny school. We had to park, I think there was, 20 cars along a residential road because we couldn't let them in. They were still running the dog in white. And, there's technically a visual, line of sight problem for people entering the parking lot. So we had to have everyone on a street. And I get it. You try and plan when you're going to arrive. You absolutely don't want to be late if you're coming from, hours away. But, see if there's a Starbucks or, somewhere you can just hang out if you're really early. Okay. Instead of trying to come into the parking lot.
Right. What else? And we also, like, for example, AKC hosts, usually we always send a final details as well. What time the doors open, if you can create in or outside. And now it's been more important than ever because of COVID. We have to wear a mask? Do you not have to wear a mask? All those kind of things. So you definitely want to be on the lookout for that. And if you don't get it at least 2 days before the trial, contact the trial secretary and say, hey, did you send that out? Because you might have missed it. Normally, we try to send everything out a week before so that you have it. But in case you haven't gotten it, you need to check your spam folder and then call the trial secretary if you didn't get it. As we see, follow host details. Yeah, because those we send out final details as well for our trials, AKC and all that.
And UKC. Yep.
Yeah. Right. So it's we just do that because it's, you know what I mean? It's what we do. And it's also easier, and it just makes it easier for the competitor, right? So I'm looking at the PSD. Oh, so the other thing, PSD and NACSW do require an ORT, an odor recognition test, before you are able to compete. So you're not just able to go and compete at the, at NACSW and enter it. And it's obviously the same with PSD, right? Performance scent dogs. So it's really important that you make sure you understand that part of it, right?
Right. And don't forget, NACSW rules changed. I believe it was March 1st. You have to have passed all 3 of your ORTs now to even enter an NW1 or a level 1 element specialty.
Correct. Right. You must have all three of those odors. Target odor recognition. Yes, I did see that. So one of the things that PSD is cool. It has games. And Tim, do they call them rounds or trials? Because I'll do a screen share of that. And we're going to ask Tim to kind of hook us up here on the
Yeah, did we do PSD around here, or was it the
We did some,
CSS something?
yeah. So here they have containers, distance, speed, exteriors, and this is what this club is offering. And there's novice. There's only 3 levels. Am I correct, Tim? There's 3 levels for that. Yeah, it's so you see they have novice, advanced, excellent, and it looks like they're not offering excellent for this level, for this particular club.
And distance. He says distance too.
Distance is cool. I love that. Yeah, it's kind of fun that I did see, and I did talk to the woman who who developed it, but it just really we've been having a little bit of trouble getting it to take off here because we have so many other venues, so it's been a little bit more challenging that way. Okay, the other thing I wanted to talk about is wait lists. Yeah, just like AKC, Tim. No wait lists. Yeah, speed sounds fun too. Just like AKC. Just like all the venues might have a wait list. So you need to, if you are waitlisted and you don't, then you decide you're not going to continue on, you're not going to do anything, let them know and get yourself off the wait list. And then you're going to have to, usually we post our wait list on our Facebook, on our website so that people can check on it. And we update it every Friday, right? So that way people can see where they're at on the wait list for NACSW. For AKC, we just ask them if they want to be on the wait list, and then we just, as the opportunities come up with people dropping out or whatever, we let them in. But we also send you a confirmation stating that you're on the wait list. So if you're on a wait list, we had somebody come to the Burn Hunt trial this weekend. They were waitlisted, but they showed up anyway. And we as trial hosts have limits of how much we can take, how many dogs we can run, all for ScentWork especially. We have an agility too. There's limits for that. So we can't just say, oh, well, you showed up, we feel bad for you, we're going to have you run. So it's really important that everybody we all want to play with our dogs, and we all want to, it's a really fun sport, but we all really need to help, cooperate a little bit better and help each other out. I know.
Yeah, and the thing about the wait list that's helpful too, I know some people, a week out might send the top 20 people an email and say, hey, are you still interested? So if somebody has a last minute pull, I'm not calling 6 people the morning of, right? That saves me time so I can get, somebody who's really ready to be in the trial. The other thing with that too, if you're 20th on the wait list, sometimes people make other plans, right? I'm going to enter, the AKC trial instead of the NACSW trial. That's totally fine. But if you're going to do that, again, just drop the host an email so we can take you off. So, if it does get to number 20, which I will tell you what, that July trial that's really hot, classically lots of pulls. I got to number 63 on an NACSW waitlist once. And the 63rd person was like, what? So, it happens. It's rare, but it does happen. So, it's really helpful to not have to go through 10 people to say, oh, no, I'm busy. Oh, no, I made other plans. To just be able to do that as you make other plans, just let us know to take you off of the wait list. Yes. Right. Wow, indeed.
So I'm going to go back really quickly, Tony, to a question you asked about the new rules for NW3 and points. Well, there's no points in NW3, but how many false alerts you can have. You can have one error in a trial and still get a leg. So for example, you can have one false alert. That's it. One. You can timeout only. You can have a timeout too, but only one of those. You cannot have a false alert and timeout. You will not. That is not a title. You can only have one error. If your dog eliminates, that's not an error. That's 2 errors. So that's a no. That's a nothing. That because it's 2 errors because you don't get the hide or whatever, and you didn't call finish properly. So if your dog eliminates, so you can have one of those things. You can have one false alert. You can have one timeout, and you can miss one hide. That's it. Hopefully that's easy for you for 3. So those are the only things. So you can get a leg, but you can only do one of those things. If you do all 3 or 2 of those, forget it. There's no title, no leg. Okay. Hope that helps.
And if you're talking points, I know it can get a little weird sometimes now if you're looking at each element, where sometimes you might see a negative point, okay, in a search. It doesn't matter. When you get to your overall score, you can never go negative. Okay, it just counts as 0 at the end of the day. So
right. So yeah, that was a quick. That was a little bit of a side note, but yes, that's the you could get one of those 3 things in a day. If you get a false alert in one trial and one element, and you get a timeout on another, you're done for the day. Or if you get a timeout and you miss a hide, then you're done. You can only get one of those things. You can miss a hide, you can false alert, and you can time out, but you can't. That's it.
So, you guys, do you have any other pressing questions on entries or venues, anything like that? We want to make sure we can answer as much as we can tonight.
Yeah, because we really want you to really be mindful when you enter trials. Figure out how to make sure the information is proper, and check your confirmation and your final details letter. Really, really. It opens at 26, Donna. It's on my calendar.
Yeah. And it's not even just for hosts, guys. This is it's for all the competitors as well, because I mean, being on the other side of it, we do get to see some upset people, or somebody who just didn't read and they get to the trial and it wasn't what they expected, and we don't want anybody to have a bad trial day either. Right? We want everybody to have the experience possible. So
right. And that's what I mean, because it is really distressing for us and for you when there's a problem with your entry, because our trial secretaries, they're human. They're gonna make errors. I mean, I wish that wasn't the case, but unfortunately, that's what it is, right?
Should there be a notation on smell kind of thing? Are you just talking about farm smell, Cheryl?
Yeah.
If there's a trial at a farm, I would assume you are going to be dealing with a lot of animal smell and leftover manure and all of that. I would just make that assumption. Okay. Yeah. And if that's going to be really, really hard, if it's going to be really hard for your dog, perhaps that's just something that you skip.
Mm-hmm. Unless you have, because there's going to be, because remember, a lot of the NACSW and some are real life search scenarios. So.
Yeah, my last NACSW trial, there was a gun range going off in the background, and then there was, magical horse training in an arena on the way to the search area. So it was not in the premium. It was not planned. It just happened. Yeah.
You have to definitely. That's why we never go to that agricultural. Too many animal smells. Yeah. Yep. And some are more animal-y than others, for sure.
They are. What, you had trials with goats roaming around, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
So anything's possible. I know there was a Wisconsin trial where hot air balloons ended up landing in the parking lot next to where the competitors were parked. It was not planned, right? And I think NACSW, because of the venues that are picked, those are a little more unpredictable sometimes. We do our best to not let things happen, but I'm betting nobody checked with the school on, hey, we're going to land some hot air balloons next to you. So
and that's what I mean. That's why we in NoseWork, you have to train for everything, right? So, so that you're not surprised when you go to a trial. But when you are entering those trials, please double check where it is and what's around. We do. It's a lot of walking, a lot of uneven terrain, because that matters. And for me, at one time when I had my knee surgery, or my knees weren't great, the uneven terrain was a thing for me. It's not anymore, but it was. at one point. So if it was going to be like one of the Joanne's venues, oh my God, it's hilly and it was awful.
Yeah, it's a YMCA camp in the middle of the woods. And I mean, yeah, there was a giant hill to get up to the search. So
yeah.
now you can just ride your shepherd there, Nancy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no kidding. Well, he's a delicate flower, so there you go.
Yes.
Yeah,
We'll want to trade for hot air balloons. Yes.
Yeah. But it was mostly the people that were distracted. The dogs were fine.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, any other questions on entering trials and kind of the process of getting there, like the A and B? I know it's, some of you have done it repeatedly, but sometimes it is possible to do it wrong a lot of times, right? And so don't forget the registration. The sire and the dam only really matters if you're doing confirmation. It really matters for that particular thing. But for the rest of the venues, it's not as important. The important is the number and your basic information, and make sure you're entering the right thing, right? And that you have especially for UKC, you have that big form that has everything. You have to make sure that the club, you have to look at the premium, that you know what the club is offering that day. Like Joanne said, two vehicles, and there is no two vehicles. There's just one. So
yeah,
anyway.
and if the premium happens to be a little confusing for you, I don't know if everyone, I mean, AKC should look the same across the board. So should UKC. But if that paper premium is just a little confusing for you, you can always go to akc.org or ukcdogs.com and look under the events. Okay. And that will also have a listing of everything that's being offered that day and who the judges are.
Right.
Okay. So that's another online electronic way that you can just see it in a different format.
Right. Right. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you found this helpful. And if there's anything else we could cover about trials and how to enter and all that, we were wanting to go to talk about when you got to a trial and all that, but no more time. So that might be another another time. All right. Thank you all. Have a good night. Have a great week.
Thanks, everybody. Time for Jive to eat.
She already.